Welcome to the Essential Libertarians, giving you the tools you need for self-governance. Today, I'm joined by Insanity's Free Jeremiah Harding from Agorist Nexus. What up?
Nothing much. It's been a bit. But like I'm gonna be so this is sort of gonna be a bit of content today. I'm also gonna be getting back to making my own videos because I sort of fell off for a bit. And part of the reason I fell off was like I've been doing a bunch of like manual labor gigs to really get a bunch of stuff off the ground. Not the least of which is I my previous graphics tablet broke, so I replaced it and I now have a bigger and better one. So I can start taking like graphics gigs again and a bunch of other shit like that. I've got some projects also that I wanted to work on with that. But like yeah, I'll be hitting it hard again. Like I'm basically renewing, replacing a bunch of stuff. And the plan is that if I can get enough of this stuff going, that I'm going to be hitting this harder than ever, especially the Facebook Reels, given they're the only platform to have ever monetized me, despite me talking more shit about them than anyone else. Um,
Are we down for Agorist Nexus TikTok? Hey guys, here's how you can start your own commune in 5 steps.
there will be a TikTok for that actually, and it's largely going to be content like relating to the podcast, like clips from it and shit like that. Sort of, like the kinds of things that promote it, but also it'll have content related to like things that are like, unique to agorism and that sort of thing. How to cloak yourself, all that shit. So keep an eye out for that because I'll be starting that relatively soon. And also, I'll be writing a lot of articles for the Free Thought Project. I wrote my first one not too long ago, and I'm gonna be doing because I planned on doing a lot more with that too. But like, just basically a lot of these gigs and a lot of these other things that I've been trying to get like actually finished have completely fucked my schedule. So yeah.
No, since it happens, I've had a lot of things I'm working on too, but yeah, I'm going to be hitting it pretty hard. I'm going to try and use this channel honestly when I'm not doing podcasts on it to pick up where Stefan Molyneux fell off, talking about philosophy, but I'm going to even go deep into the different factions of stuff like that. Even everything I've learned from people, I can't find one person I completely agree with. I like the Free Thought Project a lot. I like Mark Passio's work a lot. I like a lot of work that even comes out of band, but there's certain things, and what Luke does, and even Josh in World Alternative Media, there's certain things I'm not seeing that I want to see in news reporting and in the philosophical side of anarchism. So I get that go. We'll get both sides going eventually. But today we wanted to break down Israel and Palestine. I have a decent understanding of it, from Satai Zebi to all the way up until now. To break it down, really, the way I see it is that regardless of where you stand on it, states are always going to use violence, and they're always going to legitimize violence because they're a monopoly on force. Doesn't matter how altruistic they seem. And I'm not a fan of either side, to be fair. I don't like Hamas. I don't like the Knesset in Israel, and I think they should be disbanded, and the best thing would be a no-state solution. Now, realistically, the problem is people still believe in their false governments, which is sad. And even people are like, I don't know if anarchy will work. I talked to one person about Rothbard, and I thought it would change overnight. It doesn't work like that. It's a long-term process. So I'm against both, but we can understand that the Balfour Declaration was illegal, and that was addressed to one of the kingpins in the Rothschilds after the Second World War that legitimized the state of Israel. And the interesting thing is people say like, hey, can we take some of your land or not? I think that's not a good question. I think what they should have said is, hey, given the circumstances, can you take some of these people in? And they did. And the interesting thing is, before Zionism, from what I can understand, everybody was getting along relatively okay. Were there disagreements and problems? I'm sure there was. but nothing like here. Now,
Well, it's because it's part. So the thing about mandatory Palestine was that it was based on a lie to begin with, and it was based on UK and France. Like UK and France weren't Zionist; they just occupied territories as a par for the course, and that's why you got French-speaking people in Africa and United Kingdom people in America. Like it's the reason America started to begin with. It's the reason that the Bayou has a bunch of French culture because they are imperial entities. And when they had the fucking it's Sykes-Picot, I think that's what it was, agreement, that was the start of sort of the downfall, because the whole point was that the Arabs were supposed to be able to occupy Palestine because it's their homeland and shit, and also because it's where they were, and like when you displace people, they're going to get angry. So like the Balfour Declaration was after this agreement. Like the Balfour Declaration was in like 17, right?
mhm.
So the Sykes-Picot Agreement was like a year earlier, and it was the sort of thing that was supposed to keep the peace. the,
Yes.
the the point of it was that you get to keep, like, not be homeless, not be displaced, not be forced out of your lands. And then that didn't happen. And so there was already, like, before even the Balfour Declaration, which just sort of complicated things, um there was already like sort of a mass influx of Jewish migration. Now, here's the thing. Like, just to be absolutely clear, I don't got a problem with Jewish people.
No,
And if you look at my fucking timeline and shit, all my articles, I shouldn't have to qualify this, but I feel like I do. So I'll just say,
this day
like,
and age, you
I
have.
am absolutely one of the strongest opponents of anti-Jew, like, as a knee-jerk reaction, and as a form of racism, and as a form of anti-religious bigotry. And I'm not saying that, like, I love the Arab religions, and I actively oppose, for instance, Saudi Arabia and the sort of tyranny in Iran that's been a problem for a while, that sort of
Oh,
came
yeah.
to a head with the women's bullshit lately. Like, maybe beating women to death because they didn't follow your religious customs is eventually going to bite you in the ass. I'm not saying that the Arab world is perfect and that, anybody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. Everybody's got blood on their hands. But when you say through the Sykes-Picot Agreement, basically, that the fucking UK and France get to decide what's done with an Arabian country, with an Arab country, you are going to piss them off.
Oh
You
yeah.
are
Like
going to
any
cause right,
country.
and then
Any
the
country.
Balfour Declaration was just a nail in that coffin. It was like, not only are we going to say that we own this territory and that your war of independence that you claimed was, the reason for not fucking up the UK and France. Um, when this falls apart, we're not only going to say it's fallen apart, but we're also going to say, "Fuck you! This land belongs to the Jews."
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's the whole idea of. Also, I have another problem is I'm not against the Bible or anything, but if you just say in the Bible, in this passage, very vaguely, this land belongs to me, you can almost
Mhm.
word that any way you want. I could say, like, um, because Jeremiah, it says here in Exodus, whatever it says, that it says, I am, and I say, I am the owner of your house in Washington. I can literally mangle words anyway. Politicians and lawyers do it all the time and change regulations. Immortal Technique has a very interesting line in Rich Man's World. What good is a law if you can't rewrite it? And and also, I guess, a declaration. So I agree with you. Yes, I'm not a fan of some of the religious customs there. However, and I don't follow all of them. However, I think there's good and bad.
Yeah, I mean, well, and that's one of the fun things is like, you know, even
I'm,
lately, like we can talk about like the roots, right?
yeah, I'm
But even
anti. Funny enough, I'm anti-Iran, and I'm anti all these groups because they wouldn't like me either. I would, if I let's just put it this way, if I was like, yeah, I'm pro Sufi, everybody in the Middle East would be like, wait, you're a Sufi, get him.
Mhm.
So that would be a bad time. I'm like, hey, y'all do mystical stuff? I'm even trying to educate anarchists on the importance of metaphysical things and metaphysics and why I think that's fundamentally important. And oh boy, that's even a tough sell in the anarchist community who are largely peaceful. Um, the ANCOMs are actually more open to it, and I'm trying to get some of the ANCAPs to be like, hey, maybe I get it. You get your Bitcoin, cool, but you're more than your physical body. So let's explore that. And I've been exploring the gateway process to see if anybody is an anarchist, look into that. It was a good research paper written by the CIA, but I don't want to divulge from this topic. So
well, so basically, like there were probably 750,000 in 1920 Arabs in the region,
mhm,
and basically all of them had to leave.
yes, mass
And
exit.
yeah, and not even like it was more like mass expulsion than exodus. They didn't want to leave.
Yeah,
You know, they were forced out by colonial occupiers.
right.
And like like this was even before the UN got involved, which the UN got involved after World War II. So like before any of that happened, there were already like expulsions, expulsions of like, and it was like multi-ethnic is the term, right? I'm gonna read from the wiki here. It was Druze, Syrians, Sudanese, Somalis, Circassians, Egyptians, Copts, Greeks, and Hijazi Arabs or Hijazi Arabs. Always fuck that up.
Yeah,
And also there were Jews, right? There weren't no Jews, but
yeah,
like
it's interesting because there's a lot of Jews. If you go to New York now, there are Jews who are decked out. They got the dreidels, they got the long beards. They're even beating me and Jeremiah, which I'm jealous of, because maybe not Jeremiah. Well, actually, yeah. And they have the exact look. You look at them, you know exactly what Abrahamic religion they are, and they're pissed that Israel exists. Like they're out there literally burning. Like we don't want to have another state. And even with Satai Zebi before this, said they don't want another state. Now, and I'm not against any ethnic group at all. I am against political movements. I am against specific um, ideologies like neoconservatism, Zionism, and all that type of stuff, because that to me is just leading down to a never ending path of, I don't want to call it a world war, but deep entrenched regional conflicts when you have retards and or idiots like Lindsey Graham who can't shut his mouth for 10 seconds, has to always, I don't know what Lindsey Graham's problem is. Dude, you're 70. Go on a golf course, go away. Nobody likes you, or someone does, but you're annoying. But people like Lindsey Graham, Nikki Haley, all these people like level the place, finish them off, do this, and then the military-industrial complex just keeps beating the drum. And as far as I'm concerned, America doesn't really care about Israel. They say support Israel, which is really, or support Ukraine, which is really,
no,
if you pull the Scooby Doo mask off, it's support Raytheon, support
they
North
care
Korea.
about Israel. They just don't care about Jews. If they cared about Jews, they wouldn't have been funding Nazis in Ukraine
But they
this
care
much.
about Israel because they want a military, and Saudi Arabia because they want a military base there. But
Right,
you're an
and that's the thing.
empire.
Like Saudi Arabia hates the Jews. Saudi Arabia and the Arab world in general, for some reason, has a problem with them.
I
You
don't. I
know,
don't. Some people do. Some people don't. There are a lot of reasonable people. I think they don't like the Zionism, and then sometimes they conflate the two. But to be honest, the reason the United States is friends with Saudi Arabia and Israel and Ukraine is they want military bases. Now, if
right?
you're an empire in today's world, You can't be like Genghis Khan because everybody has a cell phone. You can't just, oh, hey, we're going to take all your stuff in your land because people will report it. You have the Free Thought Project. You have Abby Martin. You don't maybe like some people, but Josh, World Alternative Media, will report it. Luke will report it. Tim will report. You'll look real bad. So what you do is you're like, oh, no. We don't have military bases everywhere. Oh, what do you have? Oh, we just want to help these people. So they make proxy armies. Well, how do you make proxy armies? Well, you take over the leadership, or you coerce the leadership, or you bribe the leadership of certain countries. Say, we'll give you weapons and arms and everything you ever need and wanted. We got you. You're awesome. You're cool. And we get lobbyists to send you all the newest military hardware, and then use them as a military base for further expansion on resources.
Are you familiar with the term arsenal of democracy?
No,
that's what they call Israel. They call it that, and the reason they call it that is because they don't give Israel weapons. They say, no, we're not giving these weapons to you. We're just giving you $150 billion in foreign aid. You're the single largest recipient of our foreign aid. And also, you can hold our strategic weapons stockpile. And if you ever need to pull from it, you can just ask us permission and we'll say yes. And we'll have this strategic weapons stockpile in the region that we can pull from if we ever need another one of our allies armed. So basically, it's like, yeah, hold on to this for us. Use it against the Palestinian people in a conflict that has, for like the past century, killed many, like I think tens of thousands of them at this point, and just multiple thousands of them in the past, like nearly, I want to say 10,000 of them in the past 2 decades.
Yeah.
And then like you get to this point where it's like, yeah, we didn't give you arms. That would be, participating in a war. We're just letting you hold our guns and use them if you want.
Yeah.
But they're ours.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with Ukraine, except Ukraine has biolabs there. So yeah,
I'm pretty sure Israel also has biolabs.
Okay, fine. So it's the same thing. Let's just say it's the same thing with Ukraine largely. I'm sure there's differences, but it's the same thing with Ukraine. And as far as I'm concerned, I like America, but I'm really tired of the American empire because it can't stay out of a conflict and everything. That's why I do my crypto channels, because covertly I want to I want to see, and also because I like what Zerzan and Kaczynski wrote. I think there can be a little bit of fun destroying the dollar, and I'll say that right here. You gotta have. And I've even been a fan of, if you know who he is, G.G. Allen. We need a little bit more chaos, actually, not order.
Yeah, although, he did die early for a reason, and it's because he lived very much that. So
I think I just say to my viewers, there's too many people inspired by Elon Musk and all these people. Be inspired by Uncle Ted, who is a nice guy, and G.G. Allen. Those are good people. They knew how to have a good time. Anyway, so to me, the whole support is, and Taiwan too, that the United States needs to maintain its global empire by pretending to be humanitarian, but then using other countries as proxy military bases, which they do all the time. And hey, there's Danny. So we have the situation now. A lot of people have talked about different things going on. First of all, I want to tell people that any news that comes out, give it 2 to 5 days to verify if it's correct, because they put out this stupid thing about decapitation, that's BS. And I said, look, this is going to be just like the ghost of Kyiv. If you wait 3 to 4 days, then Tom Woods, whether you like him or not, I do, came out and said, look, on Twitter, they're completely lying now. They're completely, even Joe Rogan. I get it. Some people like Joe Rogan, some people don't.
I've been a subscriber of Joe for I think a decade now.
Yeah. Joe Rogan's like, these people are lying, they're fabricating information, and they're killing it. And that's the thing to me. Generally, the side who's going to be the bad guy is putting out the fake information. So Ukraine's putting out the fake information. It makes me against their government not that I like any of them, but it makes me like, wow, you guys are really being the bad guy, because it's always the guy who's making stuff up who I'm like,
Well, there's lies and propaganda on both sides,
now,
but
granted,
like
that is true.
the ultimate thing is that people should always ask more questions and assume less. And like when you're in these sorts of situations, like ask who benefits, ask like all these, you know, and it's not even just like the Ukraine Ghost of Kiev situation. Like it's just Naira all over again. It's Naira Al Sabah. You remember her?
Yeah, oh my God, Saddam's people are taking babies out of incubators. And I even looked at that video. I'm like, you can't tell this is fake. I don't know.
And
I'm
then
not,
she turned out to be the family of royalty.
yeah,
Wow, they
yeah,
don't have
yeah.
a vested interest, and
I hate, I
there was
hate,
never any proof.
I hate to say this. I'm not misanthropic. I'll preface it with that.
I'm a cynical asshole.
Okay, fine, but that's a little bit different. But when it comes to the human condition and judging relative intelligence, which I've done my fair share of dumb things, there's a few things like when people are like, oh my God, I can't believe this. There's certain things you need to take with observation. Like, okay, maybe Liver King took some things, whether you think he's good or bad or not. I actually like some of his ancestral tenets, but maybe this person who's saying like Saddam's, and that was when the internet had a little bit of a thing. So I'm like, okay, you're saying Saddam's troops are doing this. Where's the footage? Where's the footage of these things? Like, give me concrete evidence. Don't just put it in a headline, because now it seems fake news with AI has been supercharged to just like, I even was joking with Danny on his show. Like, I'm sure there's going to be like one with Taiwan next, like single Taiwan black belt fights whole CCP with his hands. People like, hey, dude, check this out. I made a T-shirt of this. Like, oh, it's fake, dude. It's fake. Like, no, it can't be fake. The Snake Island was fake. The other thing they're putting out was fake. So don't trust the media.
And the like I've been talking about that issue for a long time. Like the fact if you look at my articles about like the real reasons that they did the whole COVID thing, like the fact that they did it for power grabs and an easier access to like control. One of the things that I brought up was that AI was being discussed in the Bilderberg stuff right before all that came out. And so you can like trace whatever calamities and catastrophes are going to happen by looking at the agenda of the Bilderberg group that year. And
Yeah.
in this particular case, what the thing they were bringing up was AI, and like that associated with a bunch of other things like digital currency and shit. So
Correct.
what I like was starting to propose like 4.5 years ago was that what they are going to do is they are going to create AI so believable that they will be able to frame you for crimes even if you didn't commit them. They will
Yeah.
be able to frame realities even if they aren't real. And the fact checkers will be so bought and captured that they will agree with the frame job and not you, thus like cementing you into the criminal status even if you're not a criminal, and like creating the foundations for wars even if there was no like aggressor and all this other shit. Like I've been saying that for years and getting called insane most of the way, and now
Well,
it's like,
now,
huh?
it's like almost told you so moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with Mark Passio. If a society keeps straying away from truth, the further into tyranny it will go. And that's almost the ultimate form, where literally you make a piece of content one day and you're like, yeah, I don't think the status quo is the best thing in the world. And then literally they're like, oh, there's an AI video of you doing this. I'm like, what? And then most people will not check it. Like, they're like, oh, yeah, I guess that's true. And it's going to really take a lot of discernment to be like, no, it was fake. It's going to be even more complicated because you're going to have to say, no, I wasn't here. I wasn't doing this.
And like motherfuckers out there, read The Running Man. Don't watch the movie. Burn the movie. Every copy of the movie, even if it's in a store. Like the movie is nothing. Read the book, because the book is an actual like prescient thing. The reason I was able to like think of that, I mean, I might have thought of it otherwise, but was because there are things in that book that are very prescient. and I'm not going to say anything about that because I want people to read it and I don't want to spoil it. But it's Richard Bachman, Stephen King's pseudonym. Read Stephen King's dystopian book, The Running Man. It's fucking good. It's like 1984, but for the modern era, and it's practically a fucking documentary at this point.
Nice. Hey, it is. So,
But yeah,
so the history is now, I guess, leading up to that, we're here right now.
well,
And it's
there's a lot of history between then and then also that needs to be. So there's something that people should look up. The thing is, and this is what they call it, and the reason that they call it that is because it's separate to what Israel calls it, which was the successful fight for independence and shit. And what it is it's the Nakba. It's called the disaster, catastrophe, cataclysm, and what it is like it's not just like there was a lead up to it, and then in 1948 they had to leave, and their society and a homeland was destroyed. And so if you look at it from the Israeli perspectives, they got their holy lands back and they celebrated. If you look at it from the perspective of the Palestinians, their shit got destroyed. And this was in 1948. If you go to Wikipedia, they have a clickable map, is what they call it. And you can sort of see all of the territories that were affected by the Nakba. And basically, they declared 78% of mandatory Palestine, which was under British mandate. They just said, this is what this is. They declared 78% of it Israel. And they expelled an additional 700,000 Palestinians. And they destroyed 500 Palestinian villages. Plus, they did this in 1948. And instead of the world responding to this by saying, hey, we just dealt with an ethnic cleansing situation, maybe we should go over here and deal with this too, they were just like, what ethnic cleansing? And let it happen.
Which is horrible. And that's why that's why people are still angry, because they still remember that. Now, here's the problem. The issue, same with American Indians, is that there's people been there for generations. So I asked Scott Horton, I said, Scott, what do you think of a two-state solution? He said, it might be too late for that. I said, okay, well, what would you have people do? He said, right now, Palestinians can demand Israeli citizenship. It's not good, but it's better than being shot at, I think, was his idea. Now, Scott Horton is better. I'll say this. If you were to sit down and be like, Kareem, break down how society might work based on social norms, on economics, that I mostly learned from Dr. Leeson because he's the man, then I could break down like in easy case anarchy, these scenarios would work. And this is how. But Scott is very good with the analytics and the data. And according to him, what they should do is ask for Israeli citizenship so they don't get killed. Then I guess over time, try and take over the Knesset and get equal rights. Ideally, going forward, somebody can, if they can get to a peaceful situation with trade and with some people from Palestine in the Knesset, or really, then what the best thing to do would be eventually, yes, move towards a no-state solution, very long term. That's what I think. I don't know. It's a really complicated situation.
Well, and it's made more complicated by bullshit like when you even talk about the Nakba in like a couple decades, what was it? It was like maybe 1.5 decades ago. it became illegal to talk about the Nakba. You couldn't commemorate it. You couldn't say, you had to just accept that this was just a war for Israeli independence, or you or you would be fined and jailed and shit. And that like obviously drew ire, but like, and like eventually I think maybe it was reversed. But if you can't even mourn the loss of your people, if you can't even culturally acknowledge that that happened, even as a citizen of the country, if you can't do that, that's going to create people who were always loyal to like the Palestinian state, who then say, you know, I got this citizenship so that I could have protections, but now you're not even willing to acknowledge that I deserve protection, and that maybe you fucked up to begin with, and that maybe my people have a right to feel the way we want to feel about it. Um, that's going to cause every bit of like Palestinian Israel to say, you know what comes to you comes. And that's just like one situation. It's like the Nakba was one situation. There was also bullshit like that was over half a century ago. That was 70 years ago. And now like 75 actually at this point. Shit. And now we're supposed to pretend none of this happened. Like there's so much more. Like there's displacement in the 60s. You can watch the map just shrink.
Yes. So, and I guess also another big thing is, I don't know how to solve it, but I would say this: the United States and other powers should not be involved. At least the United States should not be involved. The United States has not brought any good thing by being involved in any country. They didn't improve Ukraine, obviously. They didn't improve Russia. They didn't improve the Middle East. They didn't improve Vietnam. Um, I don't, and I really don't care about getting involved in other people's business, because that's not even what the founding fathers, even if you are a statist and you're a minarchist and you're like, all this, the founding fathers, George Washington specifically said, do not have entangling alliances. So it's very interesting to me that people like these people are allies. We got to help these people. How about we just don't be involved? And I can't wait for the time where America cannot be involved in stuff. And it's just like, we got to take care of stuff here. I don't, even if we are the world police, or even if things fall apart, they fall apart. That's my mentality. And furthermore, I don't like any of these military alliances. BRICS is bad. NATO is bad. As I tell people now, like you say, your thing is, I'm the whole bottom strip. I just say I believe in voluntary. I'm a voluntarist and a comrade. Maybe I evolved it a little bit. You're saying a little bit more. That's the alliances I want.
Yeah, and you've seen my conversations in my server. Like, I'm all about that no state solution. I've been like trying to impress upon people the idea that it's not just as simple as saying, we need to find some sort of ceasefire, because a ceasefire just prolongs shit. It means that people are still upset, and rightly so, and then people just they assume that this will just maybe magically cause peace. Yeah, it might cause the fertile ground for peace talks if they stop not being peaceful for the moment. But if you can't acknowledge that both of you have a right to determination, and that maybe 78% was already too big, maybe 22% is already too small, and then it's just gotten smaller to the point where it's just a tiny little strip, and then a tiny little part of a tiny little bank, and it's like the world's largest open-air prison, concentration camp.
Yeah.
Maybe the problem isn't that you're not in a ceasefire. The problem is who started the fire.
Yeah. Mark Passio actually had a very interesting thing. He said a lot of when kids get in a fight in elementary school, say it doesn't matter who started it. And he's like, from my perspective, that's the only thing that matters. That's the only thing that matters. Like people are like, oh, so and so they did bad. Who started it? And well, we know who started it. So here's the thing: where do we go from now? I don't exactly know. I kind of like Scott Horton's idea. Um, I think Scott Horton is a pretty based dude when it comes to solutions. I think he's one of the most knowledgeable, not the most knowledgeable person in the Mises Caucus when it comes to foreign policy. And a lot of people on the left even like him because he knows what he's talking about. So at this point, I think he might be right. But really, yeah, I am for the no state solution because government just doesn't work. Government just doesn't work. That's been my main thing.
Well, no, I mean, government works fine. It's just it never was supposed to work for the people. So when it fails to work for the people think it's broken. No, the machine's ticking on.
Yeah, but people are on the assumption government was supposed to protect property. Well, it's interesting to me that you give a monopoly on force the ability to protect. Like, here's all the guns, here's the ability to write laws, here's all the force. Here are people who are the most skilled and trained, even if they're not very well cognitively put together. Here, you can assume control over them, and they have to agree what you do. All right, here you go. Okay, protect my rights. It's like, this is the worst person to protect your rights. And I'm not saying people can't assemble something. People can't come up with maybe a decentralized solution at a city council level. But the audacity to think that a monopoly on force is going to defend your rights is probably the exact opposite of the institution you want. And I'm not even convinced. I'm convinced Thomas Hobbes was wrong and the objectivists are wrong. Because I've had Randians come to me and they're like, we agree on capitalism. I'm like, we do. Or we agree on free markets. I'm like, we do. We agree on some parts of objectivism. We do. But you need a monopoly on force to run society. No, I completely disagree. You're wrong. I don't hate Ayn Rand. I just think that society does not need a monopoly on force to run things. The reason I think that is because we can see everyday norms keeping people in line, and even when those fail, there are structured mechanisms to keep people in line. I even go to say as far as, even though it's not anarchy, I actually think I have a word for it now. I don't know if Konkin coined it, but red market equilibrium isn't necessarily bad, even though it's not anarchy. Would you agree?
I mean, it's bad because it's inherently going to cause problems down the line.
It might.
There is no like long-term stability if you like your short-term equilibrium is based on force. Like a Palestine and an Israel in red market equilibrium would just be continually red. They need to abolish their states.
But what I'm saying
stop relying on other people's mandates and approval for their like societies.
So what I'm saying is, and not to take one off Nikita Khrushchev, he had this saying that socialism is ABC communism, which is interesting. I'd say red market minarchism is a good way to start because you have something like a blood feud saying, hey, or something like, hey, if so-and-so gets killed, you're financially responsible. Is that nice? No. Is that a perfect world? No. Does it mitigate violence? It does. It mitigates violence enough to where you can go, okay, how are we going to decentralize stuff? So that's my thing. Did Konkin ever say something like red market equilibrium, or did I coin the term?
Well, he actively rejected red markets. The whole point of agorism is that you like completely eliminate red markets from your life, red and pink, and you only operate in the gray and black and only dip into the white if you like ever so have to. Like his whole idea was that if you like do the pink and the red, you're going to lose. You're going to lose anarchy.
I guess I just say one thing to Konkin's point. If the red exists, which it does, if you have Al Capone and Bugs Moran, and we're in a world where things are better. Like you said, no one's perfect. There'll always be problems. So in a world where we want things to be better, when gangs were fighting in Prohibition and said we're not going to fight each other as much because we want to control this area was better than Lori Lightfoot as mayor. So,
and it's better if there's no prohibition.
oh, it is. But I'm saying
that's what we're shooting for. We're shooting for gray and black markets, not prohibition at all.
Yeah, what I'm saying is I would shoot for red market equilibrium, then anarchy.
Okay, well,
red market equilibrium is something like Somalia.
If you have red markets controlling areas, people are only going to use that as a justification for the state every single time. They're only going to be able to say, if you get rid of the existing protections, the only thing that's going to happen is these existing bad people who are allegedly held at bay by these protections will have total control.
How about this? We'll set up a debate on this because I highly disagree. See, at least I came to at least we came to an understanding of certain things, but still.
Well, here is let me share something. I'm not sure how the presentation system on this works, but there's a reason that there's not going to be equilibrium here until there's a no state solution, and I think it's very well presented by this clip taken by, I think that this was compiled by Comrade Lamb on Twitter. So let me share my screen here. Share screen. Tires.
You want to hit present and then share screen, and I'll pull it up. Is he a comrade?
It's Comrade Lamb. That's his Twitter handle. That's the reason I'm saying that.
Okay.
Let me get my screen prepared before I do that. Make sure I don't have anything sus on it. But yeah, here's Comrade Lamb's video. I think this should work now.
Also, I've been the guy who's been sneaking the comrade type stuff into some of the quote unquote right circles. I'm like, by the way, did you know there were leftists who were anti-Marxist? They're like, what? I'm like, yeah.
Well, if they ever want to talk, feel free to have them on, and I'll throw some radical fucking shit at them. But here's Piers Morgan and Hassan Abi.
The Palestinians have been maltreated for decades. Israel exercises control over people in Gaza. It allows them in and out. It allows them to turn on the tap of water and so on and so on. I get all that.
That's why it's called an open-air prison.
Right. I don't
That's
disagree.
That's why they call it the world's largest open-air prison.
But Hassan, I don't disagree with you. We don't disagree about the appalling plight of Palestinian people. But
so that's the video, and then just to like take a real strong the images in the video were posted in the thread. Life in the Gaza Strip. Unemployment is through the fucking roof. Poverty rate is through the fucking roof. Goods entering, it's got like embargoes and fucking sanctions, and you can't like really get there in order to provide assistance, and you can't really get out very easily. They have almost no fishing zones. They are being starved. They are being oppressed. They are also having their fucking water controlled because they can't. 97% of their water is unfit for human fucking consumption, dude. And like they have control over the tap because the tap is literally from Israel. That's the reason they could turn it off. So this already was a problem, and it was like the Israeli wars on Gaza create more pollutants. The fucking pollutants that are already there are made worse because effectively this has been a genocidal way to make like Palestine compliant. Is we will give you access to our free water, but you will have barely any way to dispose of shit. And so all of this shit is going to soak back into your access to the water and create like an extremely inhumane water condition. Like it's fucked. And then you get like this. Like
And
like all these deaths, all these shooting incidents, all these injuries, this is just 2010 to 2022. You know, this is and like 50 million loss of production per year. All of this stuff, like they've been gradually reducing the arable land. They've been gradually reducing the amount of ocean access, well, like fucking water access. They've been. It's not something that can be addressed by any amount of equilibrium. It's not something that will ever be.
No. That's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. Okay, so. Well, and we'll have a debate on this because I need to quantify what I mean by red market equilibrium. That's not what I mean. This is completely. This is
what I'm saying is that if you tried to suggest that as a solution here, it wouldn't work.
I'm actually trying to set that as a suggestion in most places. I'm hoping that's what happens when the dollar collapses. Is we have regional warfare and we have regional. I'm saying this. I think California, let me preface it this way. California would be better off getting rid of Newsom. The Bloods and the Crips kill each other violently for a while, and then they stop, and then they come up with agreements, and it's less violent. And you have the Bloods territory and the Latin Kings and the Crips and things like that. And it's a better situation to get to full anarchy than having Newsom. But we can debate that some other time.
I mean, maybe it'd be better.
That's how I think.
Potentially. I don't know.
The reason
But what I do know is that, like, the real actual solution is just for anarchists to form their own communities.
Okay.
Like, if anarchists were willing to actually form, if people, like, were willing to, like, let's say, hypothetically, in a Ben Shapiro way, like, let's say, hypothetically, like, there were about 20 anarchists who each showed up to Spokane with $5,000. We could buy an apartment complex. We could buy a big fucking house or something like that on like a mortgage, and we could like get the process going to actually form an anarcho village in the style of Konkin. But people aren't doing that. Instead, they're putting their money into politics, and because of that, like deficit, because of not putting money into actual practical meat,
you know what,
solutions.
I'm not gonna lie, Jeremy. I know you guys don't like each other, but you, Justin Pedini, it's been weighing on me. Part of me is actually saying just exit the political scene completely and go back to agorism like Larkin Rose said.
Okay, well, Justin Pedini accused me of pedophilia because I support LGBT. He accused me of supporting child exploitation.
Okay.
And I told him to prove that, or I would block him. And so I blocked him because he couldn't prove it.
Okay.
And because he's a piece of shit bigot who's a tyrant in disguise. He has no interest in liberty. He wants to control people, and that's why he supports the anti-LGBT bullshit he does. He doesn't support the truth in that regard. He supports whatever lie he has to tell in order to support his garbage agenda. That's the reason he couldn't even take scientific notes on an ibuprofen article, because he's a fucking dumb piece of shit.
Yes, I agree with you. But let me just say this. Larkin Rose, I'm coming more to the agorist side now because of certain things. So I am coming to like just forget about running, forget about this. Maybe I'll run for local stuff, but that's about it. But yeah, I'm getting more to the agorist side of like, just screw voting. I'll support Joshua Smith and I'll be done with it. And that's going to be about it. I guess I have a question for you from your geopolitical perspective. Not saying, hey, Earth Nerd. I got to have Earth Nerd on again. Earth Nerd disappeared from Twitter. Gangs wants.
Yeah, a lot of people have been deleting their accounts. Twitter's a toxic fuckscape.
They get better. I agree. They get better at negotiation. But Somali warlords did it, so we can do it too.
They did it by being warlords, not by being good at communication. If
I'm
they
just
were
saying-
good at
I'm just
communication,
saying-
they would have ossified and been able to defend themselves from the West instead of being taken over by AFRICOM.
I mean, it's kind of hard to defeat the West, Ethiopia.
Not if you're actually cooperative anarchists and not
I
statist
mean,
warlords.
they're not cooperative anarchists. This is red market equilibrium. We can debate that another time, but at least in statistics are worth looking at.
Okay, but they're not cooperative anarchists, and that's why they didn't defeat the West, because
they're
they wanted to do stuff like the West was
I would
doing, but in
agree
the
with that.
Somalian area.
I would agree with that, but not to go deviate. Do you think? I'm not saying this would fix it, but do you think if the United States tomorrow, not that it'll happen, but the United States eventually says, "Hey, we're bankrupt. You're on your own. You're on your own. Israel, you're on your own. Taiwan, you're on your own. Ukraine, you're on your own."
Well, no, because there are regional powers who also competed for dominance. I think BRICS is a very severe threat to world anarchy. I don't support BRICS either.
No. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if the United States stopped supporting Israel, do you think it would give them and the Palestinians at least a chance to negotiate? And why I say that is Saudi Arabia and Iran actually sat down and talked because the United States wasn't, constantly doing this. And people got mad. Some people on the right got mad. They're like, if Trump was here, Iran wouldn't talk to Saudi Arabia. I'm like, I want Iran to talk to Saudi Arabia. Stop. I'm not saying that's good, their status, but I want regional people in the region they're at to talk to each other. I know that sounds weird, but yeah, BRICS is the WF project. I agree. It's Klaus Schwab's, baby. Hi, JC.
One of multiple. But like that's the thing, is I don't think that would cause them to like, because they would have support from somebody else. The whole reason that mandatory Palestine existed was not because of the US. The US didn't create mandatory Palestine.
No,
the US has just backed Israel since like the end of World War II, because you got to send them somewhere. And there's no there's no sort of better way to be anti-racist and not anti-Semitic than saying go back to your country. Like, that sucks. Like, repatriation is a fascist concept, and the people who supported it were fascists. The fact that like there's a fascist government there being fascist and doing an ethnic cleansing is like par for the course.
Yeah, my question is just this. Okay, yes, I think we can agree that Britain created it. Yes,
Britain and France
created it through the Balfour Declaration.
Through the fucking previous agreement. The declaration was just a nail in the coffin.
Yeah, fair enough. From a shape-shifting lizard, if you believe that. But Britain soon lost its status as a world power. Britain can't do a whole lot now. They're not as powerful as their empire is.
Britain didn't lose their status as a world power. They just shifted to a more soft power approach.
Okay.
Britain has control over Australia and Canada, and Australia and Canada are manufacturing bases for the military and intelligence industrial complex. Australia is one of the eyes nations and a huge base of U.S. intelligence support. The whole reason that's the thing. If you consider world powers to be like individual clusters, like UK loses its world power status, then that ignores the like actual machinations where they're all at the same table.
I asked Scott Horton this question too. I said, Scott, I like your idea, but let's just say this. The Yemen and Palestine and other problems and Myanmar, and I could make a list until Tuesday. But I said, Scott, just hypothetically, if the United States did not get involved, I'm not saying things would be peachy and heaven on earth. I'm just saying if there's no imperial power, the United States ain't getting involved in regional stuff. I get China gives business deals and loans, but that's different because they're not putting troops on the ground. That's a significant difference. I'm not saying they're good. I'm not even saying they're communist, but I'm saying if the United States is not militarily involved in these conflicts, you see a potential for peace in Palestine and Yemen because there's no Britain doing it. There's no America doing it. Maybe China gets involved. I don't know.
No, there won't be peace unless people can agree to global anarchy. There will never be peace because there will always be regional powers promising one of these two nations. There will always be regional powers promising one of these two nations their future on a golden platter. That's what it is. Like, that's the reason Hamas got money from Iran, and that's the reason people are criticizing Biden, because he unfroze $6 billion to Iran recently. It's all fungible, and they have allies in the region. Like, that's the whole thing. They're going to continue fucking with each other as long as it's profitable and somebody foots the bill. And somebody will, because even if the US isn't the ones pulling the puppet strings, somebody else will be puppet master unless people can agree to stop being puppets, proxies, bullshit.
I agree with you long term, yes. In the short term, I think things might get better because they're like, okay, just, and why do I say that? Why do I say that? Because when Trump was in office, he was extremely hostile to Iran. And Biden's not like good; he's just unaware of where he's at, which I find funny. I have no respect for the commander in chief. I think that honestly, a large military is a bad idea, and I believe in militias. That being said, Iran, you can't deny Iran and Saudi Arabia talked. We don't like them. We're anarchists. But I was like, okay, look, that could lead to a de-escalation in Yemen, which was relatively...
Maybe, or it could lead to Iran funding the Saudi Arabian attacks in Yemen. Who knows?
But that didn't happen.
It didn't, but it doesn't mean it won't. This didn't happen until it did.
So
I'm sharing something else right here. It's a timeline of Al-Aqsa mosque raids and closures and restrictions. This is what it looks like when a theocracy is bent on oppression. Can you see it?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I can, but I need to share.
This is from Al Jazeera. It's an extremely good timeline.
Yeah, that's good.
Like, this is what it looks like. This is what state-sponsored oppression of another religion looks like. And I'm not saying that the Arab world would handle it better. Like, they've got theocrats of their own. And the U.S. government did a great job of funding those theocrats in the form of Operation Cyclone, the $53 million they gave the Taliban immediately prior to 9/11. Nothing suspicious there.
Yeah. But can I say, if you look at old photos, since we're digging up stuff, if you look at old photos of Afghanistan, of Iraq, of places, in the Middle East, of even Iran, you look at like old photos in the before the United States got involved, they were relatively, I'm not going to say Western, but they were developed, kind of normal. They weren't like wearing tons of stuff and going extremely religious on the Shia or Sunni side.
It's almost like when you trust racists with your foreign policy who say that we should bomb those sand blank back to the Stone Age, you might end up with them back in the Stone Age, and then you created your own problem.
Yeah, people like Dick Cheney, George Bush, and even people before them, the neocons. Like, oh yeah, let's get them back to the Stone Age. Well, they are now, and it's not benefited anybody except defense contractors who are not good people at all. I can't wait for them to go under as well. You know what's funny? Everybody makes fun of the anarcho-primitivists, but when the dollar goes, you better find one.
Yeah.
Hey, who's waving a black and green flag? You are. Oh, you're alive. How are you alive? Well, we're doing this. Hey. Look at my episode with John Zerzan. Can I have that rat? Yes. Okay. How do you cook him? Okay. Do you have barbecue sauce left? Is that a terrible joke?
No. So the whole thing,
I'm like, hang out with Earth Nerd.
Well, no, I thought you said, is that not a funny joke? It was funny. Got a smirk out of me.
Yeah, hey, Jeremy laughed. Earth Nerd said, laughing my butt off. Exactly. So there you go.
Well, so if you want, like, you can just scroll, right? Palestine since 1915. It's an Al Jazeera article. And I don't fucking care who says that it's Al Jazeera, so it's not a reasonable source.
No.
Fuck you if you say that. Not you, Kareem. But, like, there are so many people when I share a fucking Al Jazeera article, they eat shit immediately. I hate them.
Oh, it's Al Jazeera, it's BBC. I'm like, I don't like the publications. As far as I'm concerned, if it's not Jezebel or BuzzFeed, well, BuzzFeed's gone. But if it's not Jezebel, I'll read it.
Well, Jezebel can be good too. Like, Jezebel's got, and but if you really want a better source than Jezebel for the kind of thing Jezebel covers, generally you can get better stuff from Jacobin. And if you want better stuff than Jacobin, you can just go straight to the WSWS. So,
but the best stuff comes from the Free Thought Project, and then the next best thing I would say, Ben Swan, Abby Martin, they're really good in giving people bite-sized information. Yeah, wow, Crimson. I was joking. But, and also, I do like World Alternative. I get you and Josh don't get. I like World Alternative Media. I've talked to Josh, who no bad blood. I like Luke. I like the Free Thought Project as well. Free Thought Project's excellent, so go check them out. They're helping that their anarchy.
So I'm just gonna scroll while we talk, because this to me is a valuable resource, and I think people should read it. But in case they won't, I'm going to subliminally influence their psychology by by including this. So this is, I'm sharing my screen right now. This is the article. It's Palestine since 1915, and it was done in 2008. This isn't recent bias. This isn't you can just, so this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with over a century of conflict. We're dealing with, like, not just, some weird isolated thing recently. We're dealing with something, not just like some isolated thing where suddenly Hamas attacks out of nowhere. We're dealing with a long-term conflict. And the thing I want to caution people against is I want to caution people against just taking one side here. I don't think either side are particularly, like, innocent, angelic. I don't think either side are particularly awesome. But what I do think is that if you have a, like, century of oppression, of pushing people out of their homes, of treating them like shit, of poisoning their water, of restricting their water, of destroying their crops, of embargoes and sanctions. If you have this long-term conflict based on a religion that is more endorsed by the West than another religion, getting told that they get to occupy this entire territory, if you get this after a long enough period of fucking time, there are going to be people who stop liking you. And not only just Israel, not like Americans will be under attack because they are supporting these people. They're supporting this policy. Like, Jewish Currents is a great website if you want more left-leaning content on Israeli situations and Israeli politics and the Jewish condition. It's run by Jews. Like, these are Jews. Jews. It run the Jews. I've been listening to them a lot lately. This is run by Jews.
It's run by Chaos Emeralds.
Yeah, right. So, like, it's not some sort of weird, like, biased bullshit.
No.
And you'll also find, like, articles about their complicity in a bunch of other shit, and the fact that maybe they shouldn't support Nazis in Ukraine and a bunch of. So they call this thing a textbook case of genocide. Israel has been explicit about what it's carrying out in Gaza. Why isn't the world listening? They said this on October 13th, 2023. They said this 7 days ago, near the beginning of all this. And the article reads, on Friday, Israel ordered the besieged population in the northern half of the Gaza Strip to evacuate to the south, warning that it would soon intensify its attack on the Strip's upper half. The order has left more than 1 million people, half of whom are children, frantically attempting to flee amid continuing airstrikes in a walled enclave where no destination is safe. As Palestinian journalist Ruwaida Kamal Amer wrote today from Gaza, quote, refugees from the north are already arriving in Khan Yunis, where the missiles never stop and we're running out of food, water, and power, end quote. The UN has warned that the flight of people from the northern part of Gaza to the south will create devastating humanitarian consequences and will, quote, transform what is already a tragedy into a calamitous situation. Well, we already found out that these people have no problem with calamity because of the Nakba.
Yeah.
So, over the last week, Israel's violence against Gaza has killed more than 1,800 Palestinians, injured thousands, and displaced more than 400,000 within the Strip, and yet Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu promised today that what we have seen is only the beginning. Israel's campaign to displace Gazans and potentially expel them altogether into Egypt is yet another chapter in the Nakba, in which an estimated 750,000 Palestinians were driven from their homes during the 1948 war that led to the creation of the State of Israel. But the assault on Gaza can also be understood in other terms, a textbook case of genocide unfolding in front of our eyes. I say this as a scholar of genocide who has spent many years writing about the Israeli mass violence against Palestinians. I have written about settler colonialism and Jewish supremacy in Israel, the distortion of the Holocaust to boost the Israeli arms industry, the weaponization of anti-Semitism, accusation to justify Israeli violence against Palestinians, and the racist regime of Israeli apartheid.
Yes.
Now, following Hamas's attack on Saturday and the mass murder of more than 1,000 Israeli civilians, the worst of the worst is happening. So, briefly, Hamas had a positive KD in one of their attacks. Briefly. And then Israel reversed that. They have always had the positive KD. Israel has always had the positive KD since step one. And when they say, and it's not necessarily untrue, that this is the most severe act of violence against Jews since the Holocaust, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
But they've been doing things like this with the opposition already. And there have been many more than these Israelis in terms of Palestinians killed before. So what does that say about the Israeli occupation?
Yeah.
I mean, if this is the worst since the Holocaust, there have been many worse since the Holocaust against the Palestinians for a century now.
Yes.
That's my take on this. You know, Danny wanted to know my views on Israel. I think Jews are not the problem, but the Israeli government needs to fucking end.
Yeah. And the American government.
All governments. All states
and
need
also
to collapse.
Hamas.
We need insurrectionary internationalism.
Yes. Yeah. That's my thing. I'm almost to the point now. I even told Mises people, I told them straight up, look, I support Antifa. I'm pro Antifa now. If I was in a political position, I'd let them all free. I don't like everything they do. I don't like everything. I'd be like, look, listen, don't smash Starbucks. It's kind of garbage anyway. I get my mocha there once in a while. Don't smash Starbucks, guys. Can you please read Conquest for Bread? But hey, I went from like no to yes to they're bad people. I went to like
even Starbucks though. They're colonialists.
Yeah, actually, yeah. You know what? I don't actually care. I'm
not saying smash Starbucks. I'm not saying take action against any government.
I don't like.
What I would say is that Starbucks is responsible for a huge amount of blood coffee at one point or another, and a huge amount of blood sugar, of fucking like, it's conflict shit, a significant amount of the time, and it gets away with it because they have some coffee that's certified fair trade, so they can say that on some of their labeling, and people don't ask questions. But you can look at the bloody history of the Starbucks coffee company, and it's there. So it's like, I'm not saying do it, but I don't fucking care. You know? I'm not hanging my hat on that fucking weirdly pornographic logo.
No, but what I will say is this. There's some good comrades in there, provided they're not pro-Marxist. So yeah, that's my thing. Anarchists, if we're really going to solve this, I still believe in anarcho-coalitionism. Like you're saying, we have different ways of going about it. But I think like organizations like the Free, Thought Project, Mises Caucus, other liberty or organizations, Agorist Nexus, Center for a Stateless Society, Fan Prims have anything, going on, let me know. Mutualists, and, Mad Liberty, EXE, everything else. We need to get together, we need to work together and say like, hey, we don't agree on everything and we don't all live the same, but we can agree in decentralization. And we can agree that, for lack of a better word, an organized monopoly on force is not the way to move humanity forward. If we can do that, I think we can make huge moves towards human freedom. I'm really excited to do that.
Yeah, and
I keep doing what I'm doing. Because before, I used to just take the position of like, yeah, okay, I'll just take one side. But then I'm like, wait, okay, is that really going to actually solve the problem? No, the problem is going to be solved through anarchy, to me. It's just like the Ukraine and Russia situation. Everybody now wants you to pick a side. Are you Russia or Ukraine? Are you Israel or Palestine? I'm sure it's going to come down are you Taiwan or China? Which one are you? Neither. I don't like governments. I don't think they work. I don't want to try to make them work even. Not even a local level, really. I mean, they exist on a local level, yeah. What does Devin Chi say? I believe in the separation of church and state. When people automatically support Israel, that's my response. They don't know how to act.
Yeah, no theocracies. Theocracies are bad. Matt Walsh, motherfucker, theocratic fascist, little bitch, pedo supporter.
The one I really don't like is the one, like, I watched he's soft-spoken, but Michael Knowles gets real status sometimes. He's like...
Michael Knowles called for the eradication of trans people. So fuck Michael Knowles.
Yeah.
Like, everyone at the Daily Wire could, like, fade from existence, and I would not care. Magically.
Brett Cooper's pretty chill.
Brett Cooper is a CIA asset, isn't he?
It's a woman.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of somebody else. I think I'm thinking of some Brett that works at Fox.
Yeah, she has super acts to TikToks, and it's lighthearted. I have not watched Jeremy Boring stuff, so I don't know. But yeah, I'm not a fan of Shapiro or any of these guys, because all they do is say, I'm a libertarian. And anytime the government has foreign intervention, they're like, well, I guess we got to do it. Well, I guess we got to give foreign aid. I don't know. I'm thinking, what's conservative at all remotely about this? So to me, there's a ton of people who just want to perpetuate war. Brett Cooper is a female Shapiro. I don't know.
I was thinking of Brett Baker. I can be dumb sometimes.
But yeah, that's my thing. There's not a good. So I don't know what the outcome will be, but I think the best thing is to keep fighting against the state. People need to realize. I think what people need to realize, it goes far beyond Zelensky, Putin, Israel, Palestine, Hamas, the Knesset, all this stuff. Government is a terrible institution because you're giving a few humans, even if you think they're enlightened, which they're not, they're usually the worst in your society, a monopoly on force. And you're telling them with that monopoly on force, you can act on my best interest. Well, given human nature, and even giving myself being an ANCAP, somebody gave me all the resources and said, act on everybody's best interest. I don't think I would. I would do stupid stuff. I would be like, hey, all that money you gave me, it's like, oh, you're supposed to use it for the common good. Yeah, but I bought guitars and supplements with it, and I bought a sports car, and I did goofy stuff. Well, Kareem, you're an ANCAP. Yeah, but I get it. I'm not going to be perfectly responsible.
While you say that, I'm going to share my screen again, because I want people to see these images. I want people to see these images and just see what they think.
Yeah, and the last thing is, I'll debate you on the Konkin thing, because I like Samuel Konkin. I think he had some great ideas. I disagree that you shouldn't play in the red territory because, I don't know. There are some good things about Al Capone.
All right, so sharing screen. I don't want to share my audio. I think that'll fuck up the recording somehow. So I'm going to share it without system audio. These are the images. All right, if you can put those up. So this is the first image in an article, another one by Al Jazeera. Again, I don't fucking care if people don't like it. It's great content. And like, if you look at this, this is it. This is the territory as it stood in 2020, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is how it is. It's like about even split in terms of numbers, but in terms of territory, fuck no, it ain't. And so it's like when you start looking into this, like it starts looking a whole lot more like it's walling something off. So this is the amount of Palestinians that have been killed, and this is just about the UN's data over since 2008 and 2001, between 2008 and 2001. And this is like years after a ton of like genocidal, like I struggle not to just call it fucking the kind of same things as pogroms, right? It's genocidal garbage that's been going on before 2008 that killed many thousands more. And like this is just like 2001, 22, 23, this most recent shit, thousands more dead. Thousands more. And like, yeah, sure, some thousands on the other side now, but before then, you can see it wasn't thousands. And that's like, you can call that a war if you want. I don't think this is a war. This looks more like a massacre to me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, like, this is how it's been sort of spreading, right? Since the pre-British Mandate Palestine, from like when 750,000 Palestinians were expelled in the Nakba, from Israel occupying Gaza and the West Bank, the Oslo Accords, and Trump's conceptual map, which didn't end up happening, but which basically like laid out the groundwork for making Swiss cheese of the existing territory, but at least giving Palestine a little bit, right? Yeah. So this is it. This is really fucking bad.
Yeah.
And it's like there's a fucking wall in Jerusalem. There's like all this fucking. You want to tell me that this isn't apartheid? Like if you look at it, look, it's like the fucking developed nation is on one side and the undeveloped, poverty-stricken, genocided nation is on the other. And it's like, you don't do this to people and expect nothing. You don't do this to people and expect nothing. It just doesn't happen. I'm not saying I justify Hamas. You don't do this to people and expect nothing.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's just like people were shocked. They're like, Kareem, there's people in Iraq fighting back. I'm like, yes. They're like, why? I'm like, because you're bombing them. I'm not a genius here. Like Ron Paul was the only one to figure that out. Like I swear everybody, yeah, we'll go over there and bomb them and they'll be like, woo. I'm like, where, in what world do you live in? Like that you think, oh, I'm just going to roll up to a country and start smashing shit and they'll be cool. So yes, you can't destroy people's land or their property or kill them and expect them to just like, well, you know, gee willikers, I don't know.
I mean, they're following a successful model. They genocided the natives. The Tainos are gone. Fucking, they just roll in, fuck shit up, get a bunch of resources, human capital in the form of slavery, in the form of, you know, fucking market participation, people hooked on your aid systems because that's how you get like their countries back on track, is you give them foreign aid in the form of fucking loans, hooking them up to the World Bank and the IMF. It's all fucked.
Yeah.
You know, they're following a successful model. Like, it's worked in the past.
Like, we're so sad Ukraine got leveled. BlackRock can rebuild it. Oh yeah. Okay.
Ukraine will be the first country with a fully AI government. Isn't that going to be great? They literally said that. And people, like, I posted about that saying, hey, this proves me right that Ukraine was a foothold of American policy because they're doing what they want to do in the technocratic countries that they're trying to build. They're trying to turn Ukraine into the new technocratic dystopia. And people said, no, that has to be fake news. Bitch, I quoted the fucking defense ministers. I quoted them and I used the videos they put out. They said this. I was right. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. You think
I sound like Alex Jones. I get it. I don't fucking care. Fuck you.
Well, I like some of what he says. He was right about the water being bad. Don't drink tap water. Do you think the dollar collapsing would be a net positive for the world?
Yes.
Yeah, buddy.
I mean, I'm a fucking cunt, but I'm right. That's what I care about.
Yeah. Hey, that's the thing. Like, so is G.G. Allen. Good guy. I'm sad I didn't find out him further. But so is good old Uncle Ted. Pour out a beer for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is anybody out there drinking a beer? Pour it out for Uncle Ted. He was right about AI. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's the best thing ever." I'm like, be careful. ChatGPT can be fun once in a while. Be careful.
It can't be. I am full of seething hatred whenever I see anything associated with AI. Seething hatred. If you want to debate on that someday, I will absolutely destroy any proponent of AI. If you are out there and you support AI, I will fucking crush you. I will crush your hopes, dreams, and spirits. Anyway.
All right. Well, no, this was a good episode. I think we really covered a lot of good stuff.
And people found out what a fucking dangerous radical I am. It wouldn't surprise me if this episode gets me like a torrent of hate, if anyone even fucking watches it.
Yeah, I'm sure they will, because you'll direct them to it, and I'll share it out.
If Ace Archist wants to debate me on AI, I'll do it. I mean, we've been in comport on so many issues. It'd be possibly fun to have that exchange. Get him involved. I mean, if he wants to, fucking.
I'll debate you on that Conkin was wrong about red markets.
Okay, well, that'll work. I mean, I'm down. I'm going to be hitting the content hard again. That's what I'm going to be doing.
Sometimes you got to have some nice mafia.
Also, I don't know if Devin and JC follow me on Twitter, but you're free to do that as well. Insanity is free. One of the most hated and blacklisted Twitter accounts in the world, I would say. Like, there are thousands of people who hate me, and Twitter already suspended me once, deleting basically like a decade of my content. So, like, it's suppressed. Like, you can still find it if you look, but you can't search for most of my tweets. And that's still a sore spot for me, especially since Elon Free Speech Musk could have reversed this decision at any point. He don't wanna. And he's banned multiple of my other accounts. So I'm very censored.
Come on, man. He's fighting against the globalists.
Uh-huh, and that's why he hired Linda Yaccarino.
Yeah. Just... It's not like she's well-connected in the WEF.
I do have Instagram. I'm Insanity is free over there as well. And I'm on Threads if you want to get on there. All you need is an Instagram account. You sign into Threads with your Instagram, Kareem. You look suspicious, but your Threads account is like it's Facebook's Twitter. It has slightly more characters. It's not as good in a variety of ways, but it has like a lot cleaner interface and shit. So, whatever. Yeah, I'm basically everywhere. And like, if there's a place I'm not, I'll be a cunt there eventually too. You can also subscribe to my YouTube, Jeremiah Talks, and I write at the Free Thought Project, Agorist Nexus, plenty of other places. Also Liberty Centuries. I'm going to be writing more short, like little bursts there. I have a website. I'm going to be starting to push a lot of shit because, like, you can tell I've got some pretty fucking strong opinions on shit. So might as well.
Yeah, I can see that. I do too. The good thing is, what's good though? Out of all the people who are saying there were anarchists, a lot of people are harking back now. They're like, I just don't know if that's possible. But you have it. So give yourself a pat on the back for that. Like, even get people like, oh, you know, I kind of like anarchy, but it's a pipe dream. Or they say, I kind of like anarchy, but if you take all these systems out that are in place, it'll be scary. You can't just do it. You got to gradually, like, people get real kind of statist when you actually say what you want to do. Like, I know conservatives are like, the DMV sucks. I'm waiting in line. I'm like, let's abolish it. They're like, well, my roads. I'm like, okay, yeah, you just people get real statist real fast. They're like, well,
yeah, well, and they do that because it's the reflexive tendency, and because like if you can promise people a solution, they will follow you. It doesn't matter what your solution really is. What really matters to people is that you say you will do something. And instead of them doing it themselves, they seek a hero. They seek somebody to do it themselves. So they don't want to do it. They don't want to actually solve problems. They want people to solve problems for them. And it's that sort of like lack of initiative and ability or desire to, you know, solve shit personally that creates the problems. So also, I will probably have less acne next time because I think I've been working in the dirt too much. We'll see.
yeah, definitely.
But either way, yeah, that's my take on the Israel situation. It's a fucking mess. It's been a fucking mess for over a century. It's not getting any better until people like are willing to operate on a no state level, and everybody's going to want their piece of the pie before, like, even if there's somehow a solution that is networked and agreed to, right? Even if there's like the Palestinians and the Israelis have a temporary thing, there's going to be enough bad blood. Like, they could divide the land directly in half, and somebody is going to complain that the half is not more than a half, or complain that the half is more than a half because it's like a foot over here, a foot over. It's a theocratic conflict. And especially given the fact that Israel is backed by basically every world government, we are going to end up with a situation where it's perpetual conflict funded by the coffers of people who do not have to be accountable for how they spent.
Okay. I'll say one good thing that I do see happening, and this is funny. And I'm not making fun of anybody with problems or anybody with issues. I love it. All my friends are Republican. I keep them grounded. My liberal friends, I can't discuss anything with them. There's one thing I've seen from Madison Cawthorn when he's like, I stand with Israel. Somebody made fun of his, said, why don't you go, stand with them over there? Things like that. Like, there are Americans now who are giving serious pushback, like, oh, we got to give them aid. We got to stand with them. And like, I'll just show you like one congressman on X. Like, the comments are funny, but someone said, when Greg Abbott said he stood with Israel, they're like, dude, you couldn't even keep the power on in your own state. Why don't you try doing that? So yeah, we have Congress people like this. Oh, I stand with Israel. And then this is like making fun of any chance you can stand with them over there. Israel first, America last. Doesn't this embarrass you guys? What they did was far above defense. Hashtag. I greatly appreciate this, but at the moment I'm beside myself with the Speaker of the House, which is my greatest concern. So, and then there's, how about the bombing of children in their homes part? You support that. War crimes. You can't be pro-Israel and pro-America. Pick one. You stand with greed. You stand where you're told. South Carolina produces some of the most America last politicians I've ever seen. Russell Fry, Lindsey Graham, Nikki Haley. Yeah, boom. Blink twice if you're blackmailed. Thank you, Congressman Fry. You must choose one. Me. At least I agree with that.
Also, though, just to be clear, Greg Abbott is a bitch. And the reason he's a bitch is because he supported the murder of Garrett Foster, who was murdered by Daniel Perry because he had the audacity to do an open carry as a leftist.
Yeah,
that's it. And
yeah, no, I
and
hate Abbott. I think he's a complete piece of crap. I honestly think that there really isn't a good governor in America. I don't even. We shouldn't even have.
But like that's the thing though. Like Daniel Perry transparently just wanted to shoot these people. All of his texts say so. All of his messages say so. All of the content he liked online said so. All of the things he was searching said so. It showed premeditation. It showed intent. It showed like fundamental hate for the group in question. It showed racism. It showed all of this shit. And then suddenly, a guy open carries in order to get between his disabled girlfriend in a fucking wheelchair, his amputee girlfriend in a wheelchair, and this guy who drove a car into a protest on purpose because he clearly blew a red light in order to do so. Um, and when you have these people that want this shit, that want those protesters gone, that don't think Black Lives Matter, all this shit, and then you got like your Republican governor who got voted in based on like, I mean, if you believe voting works, I think he's just in because the powers that shouldn't be, like Texas, to have a Republican governor and be a red state so that they can point at it and say blah blah.
I honestly think Justin Amash, whether you like him or not, I don't know what your opinion is. I've talked to Amash. Me and Amash don't agree on a lot of stuff. To the point where I'm like, I don't care if there's Chinese troops here. I'm still going to get rid of the Pentagon and we'll deal with them how we deal with them. Look, but Amash honestly said what they do in Congress and a lot of these state houses is they pick stereotypes that people like. They want good actors. Oh, AOC's the hardworking girl from America. You got a lot of that. Dan Crenshaw's a war hero. This guy's this. Lindsey Graham's. They're good actors. They're good actors.
Eye patch.
Yeah, they're good actors who will sign a bill, dance around when they're told. They don't know what's going on, or maybe they do, but they have staffers read a bunch of stuff, and then they just go vote with the leadership. They know what the bill is called, and the bill's usually like Save the Puppies Act, which is probably something about like giving money to some lobby, and they know what the leadership's vote, and you just vote with the leadership. There's no like, and if you don't vote with the leadership, well, then they start saying, we won't fund your campaign. We'll get people against you. We'll knock you out of here. We'll cause problems for you. And that is really how it do be.
And in this case, what he said was, quote, and this is from a Texas Tribune article, quote, I am working as swiftly as Texas law allows regarding the pardon of Sergeant Perry, because the guy was in the military and he was joking about like being able to kill Muslim civilians as well. He said we should just be able to do that too and get paid for it. Get paid to hunt them like animals. And fucking like, so he's like Sergeant Perry. And like the article reads, he said on Twitter on Saturday afternoon, after being blasted by hardline conservatives, including firebrand Fox News host Tucker Carlson on Friday night for his lack of immediate response. So the fact that he didn't immediately say that this murderer could walk was all the evidence conservatives needed to go against him, because they're pieces of shit. Like, not all of them, right? But like enough conservatives are just pieces of shit.
Oh, they are.
Who don't care that he drove into the crowd, who don't care that he didn't need to do that he blew a red light in order to do that. Suddenly the law and order don't matter much when you're defending a guy who shot somebody you hate.
Yeah, no, I'm done with conservatives and these liberal types. To me, America's could have been, actually America, not to take Donald Trump, could have been great, but America has two horrible diseases: modern conservatism and modern liberalism or leftism. Not leftists in the sense of like the Ancoms and stuff; they're cool, but these you want to call them Karen leftists and these fake conservatives.
That's why I just call them all liberals. I mean, they literally are. They're all liberals. They're just different flavors. Like a classic liberal is just a liberal who doesn't want dad to know they're a liberal.
Classic. Dad, come on. They'll read the Constitution soon, man.
Mhm.
They're psychopaths. Oh, but blah 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 blah
Yeah,
blah.
it'd be like that.
It do be like that. You know what? Also, as far as I'm concerned, once a lot of these world powers do fail, then I think the world will be a lot better off.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Well,
But I don't think the world powers are going to fail, at least not soon.
man,
They've got the CBDC on the horizon. They've got multiple world wars getting people rallying behind the flag. It happens. They did it in 2001. They did it in the 80s. They always do this. They always have some new war that they can use to crystallize public opinion.
I don't think they'll win because of David R. Hawkins' power versus force. Because tyranny has to keep pushing to win. Freedom can keep expanding. I know that sounds weird in that sense, but the way I look at it is this: like, to actively get tyranny, you need to, okay, we're going to write bills, we're going to get people together, police officers, at the highest level military personnel, doctors, people of the state, and we're going to have to disseminate and keep the tyranny going. This one thing about statism that's always marveled me is not that, like, all the evil stuff. It's that somebody somewhere is sitting in their house like, man, people are doing this and I don't like it. I don't like vaping. And I know there's people out there doing it, but I'm not sitting in my house like, man, I ought to write a law against vaping, because it's not going to stop vaping. People are going to hide it. People are going to do it. Like, I'm not dumb. And I'm not like naive to that fact. So that's where I stand. That's where I stand. So,
well, see, but then you hear about this. You hear about, like, for instance, this attack. Like, I was sent some articles here by fucking one of my server members, who's like, he wanted me to bring this stuff up. So Israel bombs Gaza's oldest church, killing 16 people. Israel took responsibility for the strike on the great Greek Orthodox Church of St. Porphyrius, where hundreds were taking shelter. That was a shelter they were taking, and Israel bombed them because they don't mind taking out civilian infrastructure. This was like 9 hours ago. This was today, and they're gonna get away with it. Their government is not going to be crushed. Their government is supported by the full force and confidence of the West. Their government is beloved by the West. Their government is going to support it, and their government is going to be supported. And this fucking beautiful testament to a form of Christianity was destroyed by Israel because they don't care that there were civilians in there. They didn't care that this was, a culturally important symbol. They didn't care. What they wanted was their shit, like, to win. And power will always be able to take out huge cells of people all at once without anybody getting in the way. Because people want that power. Not like all people. Like, I don't. People want that power. Not everybody. But, like, another example that server member brought up. Reuters, Jerusalem Catholic Patriarch offers to be exchanged for Gaza hostages. Pope Francis's representative in the Holy Land said on Monday he was willing to exchange himself for Israeli children taken hostage by Hamas and held in Gaza. Cardinal Pier Battista Pizzaballa, I didn't make that up, the Patriarch of Jerusalem, made his comment in response to a question during a video conference with journalists in Italy. I am ready for an exchange, anything, if this can lead to freedom to bring the children home. No problem. There is total willingness on my part. So There are people on both sides of this trying to sacrifice, trying to do the right thing, right? But there are also people in power who are just like, fuck off. This didn't happen. The guy didn't get exchanged in exchange for the children. This didn't happen. What did happen is thousands of deaths in 1 week.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the way it's going to be. Until people are willing to step outside of power instead of consistently filling power vacuums, power will prevail.
Yeah. Well, I'm here to say power vacuums are not going to fill. Now, I'll say one different thing. If power vacuums get filled, in the case of a few nice people in Mogadishu, I think Conk is wrong. Like, here's the thing. And we'll have a debate on this next time. I'm presupposing Conking is wrong because, let's say, in decentralization, power vacuums get filled. What is better in that situation? I shouldn't use the word good. I get better is the enemy of good. I agree with Voltaire and those things. But let's say there's power vacuum. Let's say there's no Lightfoot and Gang A, Gang B, Gang C, and Gang D take over. That's not ideal. That's not anarchy. That's not ANCAP stand, ANCOM stand, or ANPRIM stand. If we want to use ANPRIM. But because of competition, it's a little bit better than having one monopoly on force.
Well, there already isn't. Like, there already is competition, and it just encourages arms races. Competition between states will like, and that's what warlords are.
Here's the thing.
Competition between states will always result in bigger and more powerful states. It's how history operates.
Here's the thing, and I'll close it with this. Me and you got in a super long fight on it wasn't Signal. What was it?
Keybase?
Yeah, Keybase. Because I was hardcore on the fact that Somalia was anarchy. And a lot of people actually don't even agree with me in Mad Liberty when I said that. When I'm like, yeah, Somalia is anarchy. They're like, no. So I'm like, maybe this is not a good position to take. But Somalia got better when there was rival. You did agree that Somalia in its minarchist red equilibrium state was better off. So we'll go with that. You did agree with me on that on the podcast.
Yeah, it's better off than under the control of AFRICOM. That doesn't mean that it's the way that people should try to adopt things. And
okay, I get it, but you move progressively. Like if I were to say,
were they progressing to anarchy? No, they weren't. They were starting the process of competing to become bigger gangs. It didn't stay there. Power corrupts.
I'll debate that because actually what I found and what Leeson's data indicated is that actually the fighting died down because warlords checked each other's power. So was it anarchy? No, but it was something closer to that. So
we can see about that at that point.
All right, we'll debate that. One last thing. Pope can step up more, raise Catholic, learn about Muslim religion. They have way more similarities than Judaism. But the bad rep Catholics have been getting, the Pope can step up. I'm not actually that fond of a Pope, though. I don't like
and JC is more on a
Vatican has been a CIA asset for decades. I agree with that.
Especially since the Vatican literally helped the Nazis.
Actually, I disagree with that. Why? I think the CIA is an asset of the Vatican. I honestly, if you were to go down the conspiracy rabbit hole, I would say Pepe Orsini is at the top, who's the great Pope. And then there's the Jesuits, and then there's the front-facing Pope that we see. I honestly think if you go, like, religion is the main controller, not the bankers. Everybody looks at the bankers and they're like, the Rothschilds, and I used to be like that. The Rothschilds control everything.
I mean, Rothschilds, Rockefellers, all these interests, they all like use these religions as fronts. It's not that the religions control things. It's that the religions are front organizations for the control.
Yes, but Pepe Orsini is the one of the guy who, like, I even found out who that was. I'm like, what? Because I go down conspiracy rabbit holes a lot, and I can present that on another podcast of all the crazy things I've.
And if within the next week you can get me the necessary funds, I can put us together a website so that this can actually be a podcast with an RSS feed and subscriptions and all that.
Yeah, I got to get that Koch brothers money. You want to? You know what? You know
well,
what?
The Koch brothers money is Nazi. Fred Koch was a Nazi.
But he did fund Lisa. But he did fund Fee, and I do like Fee, so at least he used the funds correctly.
Well, Fred Koch didn't. The Koch brothers were the people who started to use that money for neoliberal purposes.
Okay, fine, but I like the freedom of economic education, the foundation of economic education. I like.
They've got some good stuff to say, but they also justify a bunch of shit they shouldn't.
Okay. I haven't seen anything too horrible.
Well, at some point, we can also go over the miracle of Chile and the fact that a bunch of alleged freedom-minded economists were totally on board with a fascist dictator and his Nazi pedo friend.
Actually, yeah, I know who you're talking about, the Chile and Germany and all that. But there's good news. There is good news. Javier Milei might win in Argentina.
That's not good news. He supports the miracle of Chile. He's a surveillance statist. He wants to dollarize the Argentinian economy, and he's a massive statist. The fact that he wants to crumble certain elements of the Argentinian government does not supersede the fact that he wants to dollarize right before the CBDC takes hold. He's going to help the U.S. hegemony.
Okay, well, we'll see. I mean, Fee is wearing milk toast nowadays. Not much better than Kato or Cotton. Fine. All right. Is there anything you want to shout out?
Agorist Nexus, Free Thought Project. Lots of stuff coming there. Jeremiah Talks. Feel free to hit me up elsewhere. And feel free to throw me some capital if you like this kind of content and want to see more of it. Yeah, that sort of shit.
All right. And I'll just say Kareem6633 on Twitter. Kareem for Liberty on Twitter as well. And you can find me on YouTube at The Essential Libertarians, which you did. Thanks to the people in Jeremiah's server who popped in. And thank you, everybody, for viewing. We'll catch you in the next one.